Am I an idiot for making my pregnant wife cry by calling her less of a person? This all boils down to my wife's father. I have a 6-year-old son that started living with me as his primary guardian when he was 3, and his mom went back to school. I met my wife through work, and I also met her father, who worked at the same company in a higher role than both of us. My wife knew I had a son, but I said I wouldn't introduce them unless we became a serious couple, because that wouldn't be fair to him. When my wife did meet my son, they got along really well. I invited her and her father over for dinner one night, and her father met my son for the first time. He was weird and awkward around my son and made strange comments about his appearance. His mom is black. I confronted him after the dinner, and he made some pretty pathetic excuses. After that, I asked him to not contact me outside of work matters and asked her for space. A couple weeks later, my wife told me she had completely cut her father off for his beliefs. Our relationship became stronger than ever. When we got engaged, she said she didn't want her father at the wedding. We ended up both transferring to other companies. As far as I knew, he was gone from both of our lives for good. My wife is pregnant and due in a month. She has already started maternity leave and has been looking for a new job to start after maternity leave because she doesn't want to stay at her current company. Yesterday, she sat me down and told me her dad got her an interview for a job at our old company. She also told me she has been talking to him for a couple months and wants to know how I would feel about him knowing our future child. I told her the truth. I told her I felt betrayed, and I felt like she betrayed my son, who she claimed to think of as her son as well. I told her that she would even ask me, which makes her less of a person in my eyes. She started crying and asked me what kind of insensitive jerk would call the woman pregnant with his kid less of a person. I told her that was how I felt, and although the language was harsh, I felt it matched what she was asking for. After cooling off, I'm now unsure if my word choice was warranted, and wondering if I was an idiot for speaking to her that way while she is pregnant and more emotionally vulnerable. I could have just said I wasn't okay with what she was proposing without insulting her character. Everyone sucks here. I get you. I'd be mad too. I mean, what would happen down the line when her father is in the presence of both kids, but treats your son differently? I feel like your feelings of betrayal are valid at this moment, but I do think that it was an idiot move to call her less of a person. It's her father, and I want to have him back in her life. You both could have had a more constructive conversation about this, regarding expectations moving forward and her dad's behavior towards both kids. Everyone sucks here. I honestly don't know if I can give a judgment, but the people here saying OP is just as bad as his father-in-law for what he said is bats hit insane to me. Harsh? Sure. But a grown man being openly racist toward a child is not even close to what OP said. I can't fault OP for his disappointment in his wife. Was he too harsh, or did his wife need the wake-up call? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for telling my fiancé to shut the hell up and stop talking about archaeology at a funeral? Me, male 28, and my soon-to-be wife Phoebe, female 27, have been dating for 4 years. We've a quite amazing relationship, to be honest. We were at a mutual friend's funeral, George, 27M. The three of us met at college, and we basically became buddies from the get-go. None of us are archaeologists, by the way. Our BA was business administration. A couple of weeks ago, we were at George's funeral service, most of the time just us with his family. We were the only outsiders there. Phoebe, completely out of the blue, started to talk about archaeology to George's mother. TLDR. She started talking about some obscure South American indigenous mummies. In detail, she talked about an ancient native boy who was found buried with a purposefully punctured, broken Antara flute next to his mouth that they called a killed instrument, as it was meant to never be played by anyone else, in the same way it was played once by its owner. The flute was made of stone called combarbalita, which means it was meant to last through generations, so it had to be broken on purpose. She talked about a connection between the flute and its owner being buried together, and the idea that the instrument was willfully broken in order to bring the instrument closer to his owner in eternity, achieving immortality for both of them by that irreversible action of breaking an instrument that was meant to last forever. I'm basically paraphrasing, but that was the idea. I can use some of her fancy words because she literally airdropped the article she was talking about right there at the service. I'm wasting characters on this just so you know how obscure the conversation was. I get the idea. I get the intention. It is interesting for a college class. In the context of a funeral for our dear friend, however, I thought it was out of pocket and sort of distasteful, disrespectful to talk about that. George's mother was polite and she asked some questions, but she was mostly quiet, just listening to Phoebe talking non-stop. Then George's father and brother approached us and she was about to start to tell them the whole damn story once again. I quietly said, "Please don't." She was about to start rambling, so I told her, "Just shut the feck up, please." She didn't speak to me for that entire evening. We talked about it later, back in our place, and I explained why I reacted that way. She said, "Gotcha, you're fine," but she has acted differently to me since that day. One of my friends told me that I broke her, and it does feel that way. It's almost like she's a robot and her software it's malfunctioning. Tension is high for both of us, and George's death hit us hard on both of us, so I DK if I'm missing something. Not an idiot. I do not get any of the YTA votes here. Yes, I agree that maybe you could have said it nicer, but she should not have been rambling about this fact to the deceased families, especially the parents. It was very inappropriate. She should have given her condolences and moved on. It was very inappropriate. I understand you both are grieving, but this was not the place. No idiots here. But this is a terribly stressful situation. She was info dumping on a grieving mother, and you felt, not unreasonably, you needed to stop her. Her feelings are hurt because you made clear her weird reaction was inappropriate. But her behavior was probably a stress reaction that she couldn't help, and now she's mortified. All I can say is treat her kindly, and I hope you can both start to heal. I'm really sorry for your loss. Was he wrong to intervene? Let me know in the comments. Now, would I be an idiot if I gave my unborn son the same name as my husband's cousin's dead son? My son is due in March. We recently shared with some family members what we had chosen to name him. My mother-in-law was shocked at the name as it happened to be the same name as her nephew's son who passed away in 2017. He was born premature and died a few days later. My husband and I met after this had happened, so I had no idea that his cousin had a second son, let alone what their name was. My husband had forgotten the child's name. He has an awful memory. My husband is still set on the name, but as much as I love, it still feels wrong. We've had the name picked out for months. Would I be the idiot if I don't just completely scrap this name? My husband is not close with his cousin. I've met him a handful of times at weddings and a funeral. We aren't likely to spend much time together in the future. My husband wants to reach out to him and ask, but that feels awful too. No idiots here? I think you should go with your gut here. It feels wrong. It will look really bad to your husband's family, and it could be very painful for his cousin. To me, those all add up to not doing it. Find a new name. Top 300 isn't top 10, it's unique enough that this name has one meaning for your husband's family. You're an idiot. I could never ever give my kid the same name as a relative's dead child. I don't even want to think of how it would feel every time they hear the kid's name in stories or see it written on something like an invitation. Can you imagine? Hey, I know your Charlie didn't make it to 1, but come celebrate mine. Do people care too much about naming their children? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for dropping my daughter off at daycare early so her teacher could do her hair? I'm a newly divorced dad of a 3-year-old girl. I have her every other week. My daughter has very curly hair that my ex-wife used to take care of. Now that I'm alone with her half the time, I have to figure it out. I tried, but on my weeks her hair was mostly a frizzy, tangled mess. A teacher at my daughter's daycare has very similar hair to my daughter's, so I asked if she could help me with my daughter's hair. She said she could do my daughter's hair in the mornings if I dropped her off earlier. Drop-off starts at 8. I usually drop her off at 8:45, but her teacher says if I drop her off by 8:20, she'll be able to take care of her hair. She gave me a list of curly hair products to buy and what to bring to school. She also gave me some tips for washing and caring for it at home. I guess my daughter told my ex that her teacher does her hair, not me, and that she goes to daycare early now because my ex called me and asked if I really drop her off a half hour early every morning just so I could avoid doing her hair. She called me a bad parent for relying on a teacher to do my job and for messing up the morning routine so we could get to school early enough for the teacher to do her hair. We used to wake up, give her a bath. I'd attempt to do her hair. We'd have breakfast, then go to school, but now we wake up, take a bath, and eat breakfast in the car. I thought I was doing the right thing by making sure her hair is cared for during my week, but my ex feels very strongly about this, so I wanted to know if I was an idiot. Edit. I'm going to add some things to the post that I'm seeing in the comments. I am learning how to care for her hair. Her hair is healthier now than it was a few weeks ago. I have her hair down on the weekends because I still suck at styling it, but it still looks good. The teacher really seems to enjoy doing her hair. I know she does other kids' hair, but it's not exactly a set thing. Lastly, my ex was not willing to teach me how to do her hair when we were married, and is not willing to teach me after the divorce. You're an idiot. Holy weaponry's incompetence. Why don't you take your child to a salon specializing in her hair type and learn how to do it yourself, rather than offloading it to someone else because you can't be bothered learning basic skills for your own kid? You're the idiot for deciding learning to look after your own child is beneath you and not worth it. You need to reevaluate your priorities. You're an idiot. That teacher has enough to do without having to be a hairdresser as well. I think her advice on products and techniques was a gentle hint that you need to learn how to do it yourself. Step up. Is he being a bad father? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for not making an effort to see all my kids? To begin with, I love all three of my children. I was a poop father when they were young, and I didn't really get much better as we aged. I worked out of town, and I never married any of their mothers. I did always pay child support and tried my best to give them meaningful gifts and experiences when they were growing up. I took them to the Calgary Stampede. I took them camping. I took an interest in their extracurricular activities. I went to their hockey and ringette games. I made sure I was at their high school graduations, and I set aside money for university. The one that didn't go got an apprenticeship in my trade and used the money to buy a welding rig. I see him all the time. We have beers, and I will stop by his house to see my grandchildren. His sisters are night and day. I let them know if I'm in the city and then leave it up to them. My oldest occasionally agrees to meet up with me and then spends a couple of hours berating me and shitting on me. For a long time, I put up with it. Now I tend to pay the bill and leave. The youngest will invite me to her home and I will have dinner with her family. Recently, my oldest found out from her brother that I had been in town for a few weeks and hadn't made an effort to see her. I was stuck in town getting medical poop done, and I really didn't need her stressing me out. Her mom knows about what is going on with me and also didn't tell her I was in town. My oldest is pissed because I saw the other two. I just don't need to be yelled at for the same thing for 2 hours. You're an idiot. Sounds like you went to a lot of sports events and camping things. Did you ever take an interest in your oldest? You said you were a poop father. Ever stop to think that she has a lot more memories of the shitty things you did than the other two? You should just take accountability for your actions and treat all of your kids the same. Not an idiot. For this very specific scenario, but generally you're an idiot. Look, the fact is your daughter wouldn't hold all of this resentment towards you if you'd been a good father. She gives you a hard time because you gave her a hard time. As the oldest, you missed out more of her life. Is he picking favorites? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for refusing to talk to my brother and his girlfriend because they stole my baby name? So my twin brother, 23 male, and his GF, 21 female, are going to have a baby, and they found out that it's going to be a girl. So when they were asked about what they would name their baby, they said that they were planning on naming the baby Amelia. Now I wasn't happy about this, but I wanted to give them a chance to explain themselves, so I asked why they would give their baby that name. My brother's GF said that she has a co-worker with that name and that she loved it because of how unique and quirky it was. This really upsets me, and her reasoning for giving her that name made me even angrier, because I was hoping to name a future daughter of mine Amelia, after a late childhood friend who passed away from cancer when we were 12. Her name is extremely important to me because Amelia and I made a promise that if she was going to pass away, I would name my daughter after her so that she can be remembered and would officially be part of my family. It's even worse in my opinion because this is no secret and my brother knows about that promise, and I have talked about it multiple times beforehand. So, I voiced my disagreement over the name and told them why I didn't like for them to give their baby that name, and asked if there was any way that we could pick a different name for their baby. But they told me that I was being entitled about it, and said that they weren't going to change their minds about it because I don't have the right to claim the name, especially since they were having a daughter first, and they don't know if I'll ever have a daughter in the future anyways. My brother did try to compromise by stating that he'll be the one to uphold that promise for me, and that he'll make sure that Amelia will be properly remembered. But I told him that won't work, because I was the one that Amelia asked to make that promise, and it wasn't going to be the same since he never made that same promise to her. However, at the end, They insisted on naming their future daughter Amelia, and I just walked away in anger over the whole thing. I haven't talked to them for about a week, and I have been intentionally avoiding them because I really don't want to deal with them. But friends and family are telling me that they are really disappointed in me that I'm acting so childish and to get over myself over a name, and to apologize to my brother and his GF over making a scene about it. Not an idiot. I do think your brother's an ass for knowing this was important to you and not caring. But no one owns a name. If you love it that much, I would still name your kid Amelia. Who gives a poop if there are two? They didn't respect your wish, so they're hypocrites if they get mad. You're the idiot you don't get to reserve a name for some imaginary, at this point, future child. Also, it doesn't mean you couldn't still name your own future daughter if you want to.